Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, everybody, I'm back. Good to be back. And I do want to switch gears, and I do want to talk about another team that I've been a little bit critical of and another head coach that I've been a little critical of, right? So a minute ago, I had to take a moment, basically get on my hands and knees and beg for forgiveness from Hubert Davis. UNC, biggest win in his program, obviously, since he's taken over. But I'd still even say with Hubert Davis, like I said it a minute ago, like I don't know that they're this suddenly resurgent program as much as they've beaten a lot of bad teams up until that game Saturday at Duke, but it's an incredible win, and he deserves some praise for it. Well, what I will say is there is another coach that I have been equally, if not more so critical of, who I know for a fact his program has turned around in the middle of the season. I know for a fact is playing its best basketball since he took over as a head coach, and I know for a fact they are freaking scary if you see them between now and their final game of the season. That's my old buddy Penny Hardaway. For years, listen, I'll be blunt, I've been critical. I've been critical of some of his comments. I've been critical of all the smoke. I've been critical of guaranteeing a national championship. And I've been very critical of them this season. Some really bad losses early, some clear chemistry issues. And like I do on this show, I have not let Penny Hardaway off the hook. But what I will also say is that on Sunday, as we look at the rest of the games from the weekend, on Sunday, Memphis hosted the Houston Cougars. Best team in the AAC, coming off a Final Four run last year. Yeah, they've had some injuries, but Houston is a really good team, coached by a great head coach in Kelvin Sampson. Well, Houston came into the FedEx Forum on Sunday, and they got themselves a tail whipping courtesy of the Memphis Tigers. Final score 75-61. And let me just say this. One, I absolutely owe an apology to Penny Hardaway, because he has absolutely flipped this program as this is now their 10th win in 11 games. I believe they are clearly the best team in the AAC going into the AAC tournament next week. And I'll also say this. I believe on Sunday that they clinch themselves an NCAA tournament bid, that Houston bid puts them in the big dance, and I think they're in no matter what. I'd probably win a game in the AAC tournament if I was them, but I believe they're in. And not only are they in, let me finally say this. I believe this Memphis team is a team to be feared, a team that you do not want to see in your bracket, and a team that is, I don't want to say they're capable of beating anybody, but boy, oh boy, are they darn close. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. And let me just say this. It's kind of like what I said about Hubert Davis a minute ago. I don't think that my criticism of Penny Hardaway was unjustified through the years, right? I attack equally. I crushed John Calipari last year when he was terrible. I crushed Coach K when he was bad last year. And with Penny Hardaway, let's even put aside, as I said, all the stuff that he said in the past, and, did he underachieve with Precious Achiuwa, and last year they made the NIT. Let's put all that aside and just focus on this year. Because I do think, for the most part, they really were like a pretty underachieving team for a good chunk of this year. You go back to November, some of those losses were, indescribably bad. At Georgia is terrible. Tom Crean is about to get fired in the next week. I think short of winning the SEC tournament, Tom Crean's not coming back next year. Ole Miss, bottom of the SEC standings. Memphis lost to them earlier in the season. Kermit Davis, I think Kermit Davis is the right guy for Ole Miss. He might not be surviving this week depending on how things go, depending on the rumors if you believe them or not. There were losses early in AAC play to East Carolina. Not going to lie. Don't have a lot of great East Carolina basketball memories rolling out off the top of my head, off the tip of my tongue. Same with Tulane. A lot of bad losses early. Losses that I talked about at the time. I said, look, you guys can say, I'm not criticizing him because I don't like him, but these are the losses that are going to hold you back all year, and they really did. And, of course, the big one that I haven't yet mentioned was, of course, the SMU game where he went off on everybody. He was asked if he was the right head coach. He yelled, he screamed, he swore. He didn't like the question. He said everybody's against him. He said we have injuries, blah, 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 blah. And I think most of the criticism at the time was fair. But what I would also say is that speech rallied somebody, because since that SMU loss, where Memphis, where Penny Hardaway went off, Memphis is a different basketball team. 10-1 overall. The first game after, I actually remember watching it was during one of these NFL Sundays, and it was the only non-football thing on. And I love NFL football, but I flipped that game on. They were down 15 points to Tulsa, rallied to win. From there, pick up a couple nice wins, and then they really started rolling. About 3 weeks ago, they won at Houston. You start to say, wait a second now. That's not like beating East Carolina. That's not like beating Tulsa. That's not like beating Temple. Houston's a real basketball team, and you just won in Houston. And they've continued to roll. And as I said, 10-1 overall in their last 11 games. And by the way, for those of you who are going to say, oh, they haven't beaten anybody, all I'll say is this. I know Houston's banged up, but at the end of the day, beating Houston twice, that's more impressive than anything Duke has done in the ACC over the last 2 months. It's more impressive than anything Gonzaga's done in the WCC, and I'm a Gonzaga defender, but I'm just saying, don't tell me they haven't beaten anybody when they beat one of the toughest, most physical, most well-coached programs in college basketball, Houston, and they did it twice in the last couple weeks. And so to me, this team is flying. They are blossoming. They are awesome. And a lot of you are probably wondering, well, like, what happened? Like, how did this happen overnight? Well, first of all, I'll give Penny Hardaway credit. He said, dude, we need to get healthy. Let us get healthy before you judge us. And he was kind of right. In that game that they lost to SMU, that forced all that big speech where he yelled and screamed and cursed and all that stuff, and who cares? I don't really care that he cursed. But in that game, here's who was missing from the lineup. DeAndre Williams, who's currently their second leading scorer, and basically he's their do-it-all guy. He was ineligible early last season after he transferred. He gets eligible when everybody gets eligible. The team takes off last year. Gets injured early, comes back, and the team hasn't looked back since. Landers Nolly, by the way, who was last year's leading scorer, who was a guy that this year is scoring a little bit less, but he's having a good season, 10.5 points per game. He too was injured for that game. So you basically have probably two of your three most important players outside of Jalen Duren out for that game. Jalen Duren was recovering from injury but did play at that time. So that was one. Like how did Memphis figure this all out? Well, one, Jalen Duren got healthy, or the whole team got healthy. Two, the next two really are things that I was very critical of. And so I'll give him credit because I don't know if Penny Hardaway listens to this show. I don't want to say that I solved all of Memphis's problems here on the podcast. But two of the other things that I was very critical of Penny Hardaway are the biggest reasons why he's having success. One, he finally settled on a rotation. If you listen to this podcast at any point where I talked about Penny Hardaway, you could go back and listen. Please re-download. It's good for my numbers. But you go back and listen. I said, look, he plays too many guys. He's got 10, 11 guys that he's trying to figure. Like you can't just play 11 guys in college basketball. That doesn't work. By the way, I've been critical of other coaches with that. I was critical with Rick Barnes about that. Now Rick Barnes has his 6 or 7 or 8, and they're rolling. And it's the same with Memphis. Memphis, I looked at the box score on Sunday. It's a little bit skewed because of the fact that they played a bunch of walk-ons at the end. But they basically played 8 guys. Look at college basketball. Look at all the great programs. Gonzaga basically plays 7 guys. They got their starters until the final minute of the game. Villanova basically plays 7 guys. It's been a criticism of Jay Wright. It's like, you got to get your younger guys experience. You're not going to keep them in the program. Calipari, Kentucky only plays 7 guys. Eric Musselman really only plays 7, 8 guys at Arkansas. And so that's what you have to do in college basketball. Penny Hardaway's trying to play 11 or 12 guys. You can't do that. You don't need 13 scholarship players every year. And I think he's finally realized that. I can't keep everybody happy. I got to play the guys that are going to help me win. I got to make an NCAA tournament this year. And then finally, the third reason, and I hate to say it because I feel bad saying it, but it's the truth, is like it's pretty clear at this point that Emoni Bates, like the team plays better without him. And it's funny because this is another one. Go back to when Memphis beat Alabama in early December. I talked about it on the show then. Memphis went on their run when Emoni Bates came out. Not that he's a bad kid, not that he's a terrible human being, not that he's selfish. I don't believe that at all. I believe he's a byproduct of how he was raised. Maybe his dad shielded him too much. He didn't put him in enough competition, whatever. That's another conversation for another day. A conversation that we may ultimately have to have because I don't think Emoni Bates is going to be back in Memphis next year. But it's very clear that they're a better team without him. In this 10 of 11 streak, he's only played in 2 games. He played in that Tulsa game, and again, I watched that Tulsa game, and they pulled him out basically in the entire second half, and that's when Memphis went on their run. He played in the East Carolina game and hasn't been back since. There's talk of a back injury. I guess he left the program. I don't guess. I know. He left the program with a back injury. He hasn't played since because of the back injury. I don't know what his future holds. It feels, I'm not speculating, it feels as though they're probably holding him out to protect him because it's very clear that he's not ready for college basketball at this level. I don't know that. I will say it has some, and I hate to use this name because he's since passed away, but if you remember Terrence Clark at Kentucky last year, Terrence Clark at Kentucky, there was like a 3-month ankle injury that nobody could diagnose. Then all of a sudden he's ready for the SEC tournament, and then the season's over, then he goes pro, and unfortunately we know what happened from there. And again, I'm not making light of a serious situation, but it kind of feels the same with Emoni Bates. It just kind of feels like, is he really hurt, or does everybody know that it's in his best interest and the team's best interest not to play? So we'll see what happens. But that's how Memphis turned things around. They got healthy. On top of that, they also figured out the rotation. And Emoni Bates, who's just not ready for college basketball, doesn't make him a bad person. He's not playing. And so I bring all of it up to say that's how you get to 10 wins in 11 games. And now you start to look at what they could do in the NCAA tournament, because here's the thing. They've always played great defense, and this year they're playing pretty good defense as well. 18th nationally in field goal percentage defense. They force 15 turnovers per game, which is the top 30 nationally. But the offense is taken off. I mean, this is a team that scored 59 points against Iowa State earlier this year. 63 against Ole Miss. Well, they've scored 70-plus in 9 of the 11 games during this streak. It's not a win streak because they lost one in there, but in the 10 of 11, they've scored 70-plus in 9 of them. One of the games that they didn't was the loss to SMU, and the other one was the win over Houston. Houston's great defensively on the road, so of course you're not going to score a lot of points, but they played better defense. So I could go on and on. This doesn't need to be a 30-minute Penny Hardaway segment, but what I would just say is that I do believe they clinched their NCAA tournament bid on Saturday, and to take it a step further, I'd officially be worried if they were in my bracket. You can argue me, you can debate me, you can discuss, you can this, you can that, whatever. All I'm telling you is point blank, just look at this team. Big, athletic, plays real defense, moves the ball. NBA players, obviously. Jalen Duren's going to be a lottery pick. DeAndre Williams is like a 6'11 point guard. Josh Minot is going to play in the NBA at some point. This is a really scary team, and if they keep playing the way that they do, I mean, just think about this. They win the AAC tournament, so if they add 3 more wins to their resume, how high could they get up on the seed line, especially if they beat, say, Houston and SMU to win the title? I mean, are we talking about a team that could potentially be like a 9 seed? Imagine being Gonzaga or Kansas. I mean, Kentucky fans even admitted to me. Like a team is playing well when other fan bases are acknowledging they're playing well. And I had Kentucky fans like, I don't want to be a number 1 seed and have them in the 8-9 game. I don't want to be a 2 seed and have them in the 7-10 game. So Memphis is officially that team. Memphis is officially a team that I think you should be worried about if they're in your bracket. And listen, it's time for me to give Penny Hardaway credit where it's due, man. He turned this thing around mid-season. And I'll be honest, I'm happy for him. I've told you for years. Best thing for college basketball. I just talked a minute ago about Coach K leaving and what does that mean for kind of the big picture of college basketball, good guys, bad guys, villains, this, that. I don't know if Memphis and Penny Hardaway are a villain or not, but what I would say, you have a former NBA All-Star with Larry Brown on the bench who recruits the best of the best. I think it's great for coverage of college basketball. I think it's great for recruiting in college basketball. If Penny Hardaway gets it rolling, that's a great thing for college basketball. He has it rolling now, and he deserves some credit for that.